I used to have very long hair down wherever.
Sure, that's what they all say.
That's what they all say. I got the
Every bald guy's like, I used to have a glorious mane.
I did.
Sure you did, buddy.
What's up, everybody? It's Keefy from Ghost Cult Magazine, ghostcultmag.com, and I am here with the one and only John from Warbringer. What is up, man?
Hey, it's day 30 of our North American tour out of 54, 0 days off. So this, the last 29 days I've been on stage yelling at stuff. We're holding up pretty well. Tour's going well, and we're pretty much wrecking any stage anybody cares to put us on, and that's all we ever do. So we continue to do that, and it's been a hell of a lot of fun playing heavy metal.
Shit, yeah, dude. I mean, I have followed your band since the very beginning and definitely seen you many times over the years. Definitely over 10 years worth of shows for sure. And you personally are one of the hardest working people I know in the business, and your band is always touring and working their asses off at this shit. My hat goes off to you.
Ah, thank you.
Metaphorically.
I guess so.
But yeah, man, welcome back to Brooklyn. We're here at the Kingsland Bar and Grill is it Greenpoint, Williamsburg? Where are we? Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Sorry, Brooklynites. And yeah, man, stoked for the big heavy metal show tonight, man. And you're here not just touring, but on this fucking killer brand new single, man. The amazingly named Firepower Kills.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a guy, a general before the First World War, who was predicting the effect of modern firearms on massed infantry formations. Gruesome. And no one listened to him, but he was right. So that's where it comes from. But it's about the evolution of technology. I'm kind of using like an old 1914 machine gun as a starting point in the first verse, and then we move to but you know, the military-industrial complex they built for the World Wars never went away. It kept building, and it used modern science the whole time. So the song's kind of going from the idea of like, well, it was that devastating then, what do we have next, you know? So that's kind of the idea of it, and it's about evolving technology, and you'll notice it introduces some basic riff ideas, and then as the song goes on, those same riffs develop and evolve themselves. So that was kind of the idea behind the song. But also to just sound like a storm of bullets flying at you, which it does. So
sick, man. It's a buzzsaw. World War I is historically like the war where the weaponry amplified mustard gas and landmines and crazy shit that didn't exist before, machine guns and advanced like the first real jump in weaponry.
Oh yeah, there's some crazy stuff, man. There's a crater at a place called Messine Ridge that's a lake today, because they put like a couple thousand tons of explosive beneath the earth and set it off all at once. You can watch that thing going up. It killed about 10,000 people, they estimate, at the time it happened. But, one blast can do that. And it's kind of, it's really, really dehumanizing. In fact, I think that kind of the invention of this sort of weaponry is why the heroes of today have to be superheroes, because they have to have some way to trump the why don't you just shoot the guy, So you need that, but that's all made up. The reality is, one guy, it's a small thing in the modern world, and it's kind of that's sort of really evil if you think about it, I guess.
Right on.
Yeah.
And then I guess another little sort of an analogy to today is also World War I is known for trench warfare, which was very personal and intimate and hand-to-hand and bayonets.
Oh, very, very impersonal, though. The main killer is artillery, man. It comes from somewhere you can't see. About 80% from just a random shell blowing someone in half or burying them alive. It's a large number of them. I found, actually, after I got interested in the subject, that I have one, potentially two grandfathers who are involved. I know for a fact that on my mother's side, my grandmother's father was named Giles Carter. He was in the American Expeditionary Force in something called the Mozartone Offensive, where he's hit by mustard gas, and he dies of cancer when she's 8. My grandmother, who I just talked to about this a few months ago, didn't know it, got his uniform and some other things, which is a bit of a trip because I already had this interest. I'm like, oh, did I know this before I knew that? Anyway, that's amusing. But her only memories of him were pretty much in the hospital, and he died of cancer. Now, was this related to the mustard gas? It seems quite plausible. It's not a nice thing. It's a blistering agent. It contaminates an area for a while. It burns the skin and blinds you. The expression "the blind leading the blind" comes from that, because they used to have to walk people off that way. But if you look at it from space, it's basically spraying raid on a line of humans. It's incredibly grotesque.
Wow, that is interesting and also horrible at the same time. The Ghost Cult magazine interviews where you come to learn shit.
Oh, but check it out. So metal bands try to write about the most brutal thing, right? What does the likes of Ed Gein or Jeffrey Dahmer, the guy with the mask and the saw in the woodshed who's gonna like hack you to pieces and like fuck the corpse or whatever, what does that have on the likes of Joseph Stalin or on like the Western Front? Shit, that guy's whole career is the blink of an eye in one of these places. So, and remember, that's with the weapons of 100 or like 70 years ago. What would it be like today? So that's kind of where Warbringer is going with that. Is if you want to imagine the most brutal thing, you don't even need to make it up. It's real. Suck on that. You know.
Word. And so Firepower Kills is the first salvo, to keep it military, in the new Warbringer album that we're going to get to hear in early 2020, man. I'm stoked.
Yeah, and the record, I'd like to point out, too, I mean, people ask, I study history, I'm interested in warfare, of course, for a number of reasons, moral, Socratic questions, I'm interested in the tactics and strategy, I'm interested in the individual human experience, which must be among the more extreme experiences that any humans lived ever. It's interesting on that level. But then Warbringer, the next record, 2 of the 9 songs are on that. So don't confuse us for one of these bands that like writes only on one subject. So I'd say Warbringer goes a lot of different places. We have lyrics that are in like the metaphysical or philosophical, such as Divinity of Flesh from the last record. Some that are pure like dark fantasy, such as Demonic Ecstasy or Spectral Asylum from the last record. Some which are personal, like there's a couple on here, like Scars Remain from Empire's Collapse. So I just try to write interesting songs. Some of them take place in the past, some in the present, some in the future, some in places I've made up. But I just try to keep it interesting and to where there's an actual idea there to build the song around.
Killer. I'm, like I said, super pumped for a new record and really psyched that you guys came right back basically a year and a half later after the last record, which was also, as you mentioned, awesome and very deep and still has a lot of legs to me. I hope we're going to hear more of that stuff tonight too. And
absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Play the shit out of that record live.
I know. I wonder, is this just sort of part and parcel? I know you had sort of a gap between records earlier and now 2 right away. Hopefully that's an indicator of where things are going with the Warbringer machine.
Well, it's been a couple years since the last one. We got to take the time to have enough ideas to put an album that we want to put out to you guys out. The long gap was between Empire's Collapse and Woe to the Vanquished, and the reason for that is because we had to rebuild the band. So that if I had to do that again, I'm not doing that again. But right now, we have 4 of the 5 of the same members, and the change in the bass department from Jesse Sanchez to Chase Bryant is undoubtedly a major improvement. So we've got, I think, the strongest live machine we've ever had, and we're just ripping through all these cities. The band is playing really, really tight every single night, and honestly, I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of how far we've gone and how far the musicianship has progressed. I think we have some really, really underrated musicians on the stage. Carlos Cruz being a multi-instrumentalist and songwriter as well as drummer, but on the drums, a pure sledgehammer, nothing fake, no triggers, fast as hell, pure fury, but completely controlled. Chase Becker, also very underrated, total shredder, plays the Next Mortis as well, a band that is nothing but shred, essentially. And so we have that element, which is something we didn't have a player like that on our early records. So Warbringer, basically, I wouldn't continue it. It wouldn't be satisfying for me, I think, if I couldn't say, like, we're better today than we were yesterday. At the moment, I can't say that. Out. Done. I'm going to, and I'll make damn sure for as long as I'm able to, that I never have to say that. But I never want to be coasting. I have to be, like, cutting edge relative to ourselves. Otherwise, I can't justify my own damn existence doing this. And, I wish more people felt that way.
Awesome, man. I have to say this just kind of sparked something in me. I always feel like early in the Warbringer career, you guys were pirated of other people, or some people go by the wayside, and you have really kept this machine running, man. Like, obviously this band is your life, and I gotta, again, give a lot of credit due to you for just kind of the sort of the temerity to keep going. A lot of people quit.
It's a total feat of complete tenacity, I'll tell you that. But there's a lot I'm really thankful for in it. I've got to see a lot of the world. I've learned a ton of shit from doing that. It gives me a lot of perspective on myself and my own life that's healthy and just good for me and day-to-day stuff. Having been to all these different places, seen all these different people, the way people live, the way they act, everything, and got, I have a lot more life experience, I feel, doing this than I would have otherwise. And also just like every night that we're playing these shows, whether it's a great show or a bad show, there's people there and we're making them happy because we give them, it doesn't matter, we give them a great show no matter what, and people respond to that, and that gives me some sense of meaning in my otherwise by default bleak existence, and so I really enjoy that aspect to it. And like I was saying, that song Divinity of Flesh from the last record goes into sort of like the quest for meaning and in your existence, and the conclusion I have there is, well, I'm making something that will live past myself, therefore that's divinity. That's the closest we can get at any rate. For sure we know that exists. Anything else is a crapshoot, So to me that's very important, very personal, and that's why I kind of put the attitude I do into this, and why you can see me in a lot of places, but you will never ever see me on a night where I'm half-assing at. That just doesn't exist, and I won't ever let it be so. Yeah.
Fucking killer, man. That's my experience at every Warbringer show I've ever been to. The very first Warbringer show I ever went to was, I'm pretty sure, the Scion Rock Fest in Atlanta at the old Masquerade, and it was like a weird mix of bands, some death metal, mostly post metal, and some stoner rock, and then you guys, and the whole place was just kind of like, I think some band played before you that was just some avant-garde weirdness, and then suddenly Warbringer arrives, and it's fucking circle pits and walls of death and a push pill, like a old school California mosh pit. Like, really good shit, man. I was so impressed that very first time live, having already been checking out the band, and so here we are, man, over a decade later.
That show was a strange fluke, too, because we were on tour in Canada at the time that happened, and as you remember, that was in Atlanta, Georgia. We actually had our bassist driving the van, and if you see video from that, please don't. We don't have a bass player. So it's even that. But I always take the attitude on stage, I never really get nervous on stage because my attitude is, we're going to come in all guns blazing, and we're going to rip and shred, and if someone doesn't like that, fuck them. What do I think of their opinion anyway? Like, if you don't think that's cool, what do you like? Shit,
Awesome, true. One other thing I wanted to just touch on, I've been kind of like, as usual, thrash is my jam, and one of the things I'm very passionate about it, like you. And I don't know if you had a chance to check it out yet because it's not out for wide release yet. But the Murder in the Front Row documentary has been playing and making the rounds. So this is a big, West Coast, mostly West Coast. A little bit of East Coast thrash metal history documentary by Adam Dubin. I highly recommend you check it out. But I always remind a band like Warbringer and a couple of other bands in the scene, Municipal Waste, Haunt from LA is becoming big. Like I feel like this passion, the same passion I felt as a kid for the early, first and second wave of thrash metal bands, I feel in guys like you. I feel it in these, riffs of Municipal Waste. I feel it in the energy of a Haunt. I feel it. It's necessary and vital. I think this music is not played out. There's a lot of room to grow and a lot of new music not made yet. And I wanted to get your take on that, man, because I just feel like you guys are very integral to this.
I mean, what you just said there resonates with me a lot. I think a lot of the reason why I'm in this music, which is something from more or less a previous generation to my own, is because I saw something there. Or, everyone's view of the past becomes romanticized, but whatever the version of it that I see is, I see something there that I don't see today. I see a lot of metal be like sonically really heavy, but not have that spark and that fire behind it, and it comes off flat to me. Therefore, where like stuff that's sonically less heavy, because it was like 30 years ago, rips harder somehow. And I think that energy and that spark and the passion for it's the difference. And just the attitude of like, we're gonna come in all guns blazing, we're gonna play sweet riffs and shred, and we're gonna have songs too that are catchy at the same time, and that balance, and then just the sheer excitement of a live thrash metal show. I think when done correctly, when done, with all of those things we just talked about behind it, I just think there's nothing else like it. And I think when we started this band, we were very much like looking at the 80s for our starting point. Our first record, is very much strictly that, with the exception of the black metal riff on At the Crack of Doom. Yeah, we've had the extreme metal stuff since forever, and it remains there to a greater extent now. But anyway, we always just wanted to be like the band that if you put us next to any other band, we are more destructive. You know, that's kind of, that's my personal mission. It's up to audiences to judge whether we are or aren't. But, like, that's what I'm trying to do, for sure. And I always liked that. I always liked that attitude of just, like, we're going to rip harder than anything you've seen, and the kind of fire behind it that lets you do that.
Awesome, man. As we wind this down, because I want to give you back your pre-show time, as a final question, as we push towards a new album in 2020, I know I don't expect you to talk or reveal any secrets yet about the new album, but can we expect another single to complement Firepower Kills?
Yeah. The record's coming out early 2020. It is now late 2019, so we're gonna put out one, maybe two more singles before and during the release. One thing, some may know the single we did, Power Unsurpassed. We did a full remix and remaster on that. It sounds significantly better than the original we did in a weekend, so it had some limitations. So we did that as well. There's 2 bonus tracks, and the record is actually every Warbringer record up until now has been between 39 and 41 minutes, which is funny. In some old interview, I said the perfect thrash album's about 40 minutes long. In, bam, 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 out, compact. This one is actually like 48, so it's the longest record we've done. It's probably the most expansive, and I think it continues down the path that we set with Woe to the Vanquished. That's what I'll tell you. Really proud of it, and hope you guys enjoy it.
Awesome, man. I cannot wait to hear this record. In the meantime, please go out and purchase, and if you like, stream Firepower Kills, a new single from Warbringer. John, it is always a pleasure to hang out with you and see you again. I cannot wait for this show tonight here at the Kingsland with Enforcer. I am Keefy from Ghost Cult Magazine, ghostcultmag.com. Thank you for hanging out with us, brother. We are out.